Alright, I'm hoping to run through a short video here, show everybody some of the problems that I ran into, which were numerous, and hopefully save you some time. These knobs pull straight out. They can break. I know some of these devices back in here that you're turning can be pretty stiff, so I had to actually try to repair one, and then I ended up ordering a couple of those. You've got 3 screws in there that are Phillips, and behind the vents you've probably seen in the other videos, and they are back up in there just above that. And I recommend you get a magnetic tool so that you can catch those as they fall out, so you don't have to go chasing them. You're also going to want to wiggle this. It's clipped in there pretty good, so I had to wiggle it and get it out. It didn't feel, like it was coming for quite a while, but it slowly came loose. And what's binding is where the vents connect back in here. They're pretty tight, and then the clips as well. So then once you pull it out, you've got the harnesses dangling down here, and you don't really want to set it down too hard. It may trigger your emergency blinkers or some other things. So after you get this main console area out, you've got these 4 gold screws on the brackets, and these brackets come loose from the side of the factory radio. I installed a cheap Walmart radio. I didn't want to spend a lot. This is not my daily driver. It's a old beater truck. So it's the DUAL dual, and it comes with the touchscreen, some options. I'm currently only using it as a USB and radio and a backup camera, so I did install the backup camera as well. But once I get the factory radio out, it looks like this. So I pull this guy out, and I've got this radio here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me try and zoom out just a little bit. Let's go back out a little bit here. So then it's got these plugs in the back. This was the wiring harness plug that I pulled out. It didn't look like any of the wires that I found on the internet. So I'm Googling the color scheme. I ended up getting out my voltmeter and testing them. I found my 12 volt constant power, and then I found my auxiliary, my ACC 12 volt that comes on when you turn the key. And I couldn't get the radio to work. So I was kicking myself and looking around for what's what. It turned out it was the ground wire. It was actually not the black wire, but it turned out to be a brown wire. The wiring harness still wasn't matching up. So I ended up cutting the wires and trying to wire it in manually, and then I discovered while I was doing that this piece down here was in the way. So I basically unplugged these 3 things and I set that aside. And once I did that and I got back in there, I discovered there's this preamp, and this preamp is sitting back in there with its own wiring harness. And this is where I cut the original and tried splicing it and using some crimp and some other things. I don't solder too well, so I didn't get into that. But I pulled this out, and it turns out it had the exact wiring harness that I needed, which translates to either I purchased 2 of them. I purchased the 701761, and I also purchased the 71-1761, and I used the other one. So this packaged one isn't what I used, but it fit right into the wiring harness that is behind the preamp. So aside from taking the radio out, you got to take the preamp out, and then you'll get the wires that you need. Unfortunately, I had screwed this back in before I could show you, but I used something called Posi-Lock connectors instead of soldering or the screw-on cap. So look it up. They were expensive. They were like $1 each. I can't find them for cheaper. So it appears to be a new type of invention, but it worked really great. I really like those. I'm going to start using those in the future. So then I got the proper wiring harness connected to the back of the radio, plugged it in, and everything was working except for my ACC wire. So I think that's the gray stripe, the gray wire, and I couldn't get that to work. I thought I had broken the wire or jiggled something loose. So what I did was started looking online for a while and scratching my head. Well, I come to find out that auxiliary wire is part of that auxiliary circuit actually runs through this console. It has to go through the AC button and the and the emergency lights button and the cargo lamp button. It has that circuit has to complete before it goes into the radio. So by disconnecting this to get it out of the way, I had actually disconnected the ACC circuit, and the rest of the circuit was all wired into the radio wires for that wiring harness. So I thought that was weird. There is a backup camera that I installed, and I ended up running a wire directly into the cargo lamp switch. So when I turn this on, I get my backup camera. That was my decision. I didn't want to plug it into, I didn't want to have to change the transmission into reverse in order to activate the camera. So that worked out kind of well for me. So aside from the preamp being back in there that you probably have already discovered, in getting the correct wiring harness, the 71-1761, and then wiring that in, I felt like I had completed everything that I wanted to complete. So I ran these extra, I noticed this adapter bezel here doesn't totally fit the hole for what they call like a double DIN or whatever they call it. So I ran my microphone and my USB connection out through there, and I might leave it that way. I don't know. I actually don't mind that. So you get a little bit of a gap in here, which I'm not a cosmetic person. I'm more functional than fashion. So it works for me, and I might leave it like that for a while going forward. The other thing is these lights. I was not happy with the lights. So these three here are the main ones. I didn't replace the smaller bulbs. But these three, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, these three here will light up a portion of this front area. So you got to wiggle this gently to get that. Don't want to tear off that foam where the vents connect, and get a nice press it in there, and everything's tight. And I got to screw it back in. But these lights, I replaced these two, and I did not replace this one. So the two that I took out end up being these green bulbs here. Well, they're actually white bulbs with like a green plastic. So let me show you how those lights glow right there. So I had to replace the two bulbs that were in here that had the green, because they just weren't illuminated enough for me to really see at night. Now I can use the dimmer switch, and you see they cut out at a certain point, but with the knobs covering them, they really don't hide. They really are not too bright, and they really don't interfere with my peripheral vision as far as a glow at night. Then this one is dimly lit because I left that green bulb in there visible, because with the I actually replaced it at first, and then I drove around a little bit at night testing it, and it was way too bright. I just couldn't stand it. So that one I had to put the green bulb back in there. Come on, get out there. So that was some of the problems I encountered, and I had to run the wire through the passenger floorboard. There's a rubber grommet in order to get the backup camera mounted, and then I had to avoid the spare tire in the back, which is a pain in the butt too. The other lights that I replaced the halogen bulbs with are these LED. So they look like this. You can get them online. I think they're let me see what the numbers are. So there's several lights involved here. I think 921 is the bigger one. 3157, that's like a brake light. Okay, I'll put a link to the size of the bulbs that were replaced there as well. And I did replace some of the I don't know, they call them like CAN bus looking bulbs that go in the upper with some LED. So that was helpful. A little bit of a change. The door lights, if you replace the side lights in the door with LED, when you open this up, that light there actually gets too bright. It's like you don't want it that bright. That one, that light right there gets too bright. You just don't, I don't know, I didn't like it. So I put the halogen bulbs back in that one, and I replaced these top dome lights and the one in the back seat with LED. And I'm very happy with that so far. Aside from that, what I've got. I guess I'll show you the backup camera. Now it actually doesn't have to be running. I could just have the AC mode going and the lights turned off, and then I've got a good visual on the backup. And that's without putting it in reverse. There's also some feature on this radio where you're supposed to tap into the emergency brake so that you can use some video input or something. I don't use that, so I'm not going to tell you anything about those. I'm not aware of them. And I did replace the LEDs on the cargo lamp, and then I also replaced the front headlights, which was a pain. I wanted to tell you about that. I ordered these, which was, it's a 6000K from, what is this? I don't even know how to say that. XENOWER LED lighting from SEALIGHT is the brand. And they've got, if you Google them, there's YouTube videos. I got these on Amazon, pretty cheap. It was the front two headlights. They were hard to get out, and I broke one of them. And you got to really watch the instructions. You need to put the center clip in first on the new ones before you put in the rubber stopper. And then you put in the rubber stopper, and then you actually put the light in. And mine worked. So these lights, this model actually worked for me, which is the H4. I don't know if you can see that checkbox. So this is the model that worked for me. It's the H4, looks like 9003 HB2, and I'm sure if you check Amazon compatibility with your make and model. But I was pretty happy with these. It was a tight fit. I had to wiggle the light in. I couldn't go straight in to the hole, so I had to come up from below and slowly get it in there and then twist it so it would stay in. And hopefully that helps. Hopefully that saves somebody some time and effort on doing this, because I really was not happy with how some of it turned out. But let's make that work.